Probably one of the most important projects that I've worked on over the years is drug-induced nutrient depletion. It was stunning to think about this. So you take a drug and it depletes a nutrient. Now here's the thing, it is not a requirement to study nutrient depletion when a new drug is being researched and then approved. Most of the time what happens is that we find out about these nutrient depletions after people have been on the drug and are already having side effects. So the first piece is, and that I've learned now, a lot of my grad students that went through my courses over the years, I would make them list the side effects of a drug on one side of the paper, list the nutrients that were proven, not theoretical, but have been published to be depleted by that drug. And then when you're low in that nutrient, what are the symptoms related to the low status of the nutrient? And then when you compared the two, it was shocking. A lot of the side effects were actually being caused by the nutrient depletion. For the life of me, I couldn't figure out, well, why wouldn't, a drug manufacturer want to let people know that, hey, some of these side effects may be because these nutrients are depleted by our drug that we're giving you. And maybe if you take those nutrients, you got less chance of an adverse event or at least the side effects from it. So let's give some examples. Statin medications deplete coenzyme Q10. Well, it turns out it depletes more than coenzyme Q10. You get vitamin D depletion, omega-3 fatty acid depletion, carnitine, selenium. But the big thing is that for a significant amount of people, they take a statin medication and they deplete a coenzyme called CoQ10. And it just so happens that CoQ10 is really important for muscle function and mitochondrial energy production. So what's the net effect of it is? Well, rare cases of what's called rhabdomyolysis or the extreme breakdown of muscle, but a large percentage of people, like in the 20 to 25% range, they get sore. Their muscles get sore. It's hard for them to exercise. Give them CoQ10 and they're able to exercise. They don't get that muscle soreness. CoQ10 being really important in terms of overall status and quality of your muscle. But then, of course, depletion of vitamin D is important. Omega-3 fatty acids, super important for managing inflammation. Statins was probably the famous one, but I'll tell you one that a couple that were really stunning was when women take oral contraceptives, it depletes B vitamins, and in particular, it depletes folic acid. And it depletes other things, CoQ10, vitamin E. There's a variety of vitamins and magnesium that get depleted. But if a woman goes off an oral contraceptive, what they're instructed to do today is they should take folic acid for 6 months before trying to get pregnant. Well, why was that so important? Well, if you get pregnant and you're low in folate, it increases your chance of neural tube defects. And so it's a baby that's born with spina bifida or a cleft palate. And I'll tell you, I had a real world example of that. Lecturing a bunch of pharmacists, talking about drug-induced nutrient depletion. Husband and wife pharmacy couple come up to me, both pharmacists. And they said, I was on an oral contraceptive, got off of it. We wanted to get pregnant. I got pregnant about a month and a half after going off oral contraceptives. And our baby was born with spina bifida. This is something that's totally preventable, right? Everyone should know what nutrients are being depleted when they're on certain drugs. This is something when you're thinking about bringing a new life in the world, it's already challenging. To have a neural tube defect when it's something as simple as folate, incredibly important. The other one that comes to mind is everybody got hot on Nexium, right? Hey, I've got reflux. I'm going to take either a H2 blocker or a proton pump inhibitor because of my indigestion, right? Run into the store and grab your H2 blocker. Or if you've got reflux, you would be put on a PPI. Look, if you've got an ulcer, you got to be on a PPI. It's okay. But they were meant to be short-term drugs, 9 to 12 weeks. Because we're not teaching people how to eat, not teaching them, how to improve their digestion, but they're on them for years. And eventually what came out was, oh, this depletes magnesium, which can lead to muscle cramps, muscle spasms, increases in blood pressure, a lot of issues related to magnesium status being dropped. But it also depletes vitamin D, calcium, vitamin B12, and lowers your ability to absorb protein. I could have increased bone loss. I might not be able to put on muscle as easily. Proton pump inhibitors are a big problem. Now, say, for example, you have high blood pressure. And a lot of times people are put on these combination products of, what's called an ARB, an angiotensin blocking compound, or it's a angiotensin 2 inhibitor, an ACE, and it would add hydrochlorothiazide. Hydrochlorothiazide depletes potassium, magnesium, and CoQ10. But when you go and you get your prescription for hydrochlorothiazide, they put a sticker on the bottle that says, oh, drink a big glass of orange juice because you're going to lose potassium. Well, first of all, if you're already insulin resistant or you're already having trouble regulating your glucose, drinking that big glass of orange juice may not be the best idea. But nobody pays attention to the magnesium depletion. And when you look at the side effect profile of hydrochlorothiazide, it's increased risk of diabetes. Well, yeah, because you deplete magnesium, the number one nutrient depleted that's associated with the development of prediabetes, diabetes. But then it's also back spasms, back pain, muscle weakness. Those symptoms that you get as a side effect from that hydrochlorothiazide was due to the fact that you're depleting magnesium, and more than likely a person didn't have not enough magnesium to begin with. Restless legs, a lot of different issues come up. Another great example, someone gets put on a beta blocker, especially in the elderly population. They're on a beta blocker to help regulate their heart. Well, it depletes melatonin. And you could talk to any geriatrician and they'll say, well, we put somebody on a beta blocker, we know that they're going to be back for something for sleep in the next 6 months. It's that thought that you're on a drug and it's not a side effect. You didn't get a rash. Your throat didn't swell. That you didn't have a direct side effect, but it's the ongoing use of the drug that's depleting these nutrients over time that is causing a problem that ends up leading to another prescription being written. And so that creates what's called polypharmacy, and it's one of our biggest issues. We know that people start having more side effects and more difficulty the more and more meds they get put on. And I'll give one example of it. And after that, I can tell you how you can learn more about drug-induced nutrient depletion. Had a pharmacy student come to me lecturing on drug-induced nutrient depletion at the University of Cincinnati. And of course, every time you talk about these kind of things, the student's going to come to you and go, I have that problem, right? She came up to me and she said, do you think this is an issue? I was on an antidepressant and it was doing great. I was, 50 milligrams of this antidepressant. I was stable. Work stress is hard. I'm going through college. But I've been stable. I got put on an oral contraceptive. Oral contraceptives deplete vitamin B6, which is needed for methylation to make your serotonin and other neurotransmitters. What happened was, after being on those oral contraceptives, the antidepressant wasn't working as well. So they kept increasing the dose and increasing the dose and increasing the dose, and she really wasn't getting, the same feeling she got before on the oral contraceptives and on a much smaller dose of the antidepressant. So do you think that this is the problem? I said, look, I don't know whether it's the problem. Talk to your doctor, prescribe. However, you could take a B complex, because there was actually studies that showed that anywhere from 19 to 51% of women who are on oral contraceptives end up depressed. And there were other studies that showed when you took B6, that the B6 restored their mood. You can take a B complex. They're not even expensive. The biggest thing that's going to happen is your urine's going to be bright yellow, and maybe it didn't work. Well, it went to the end of the semester, and she came to me and said, you know, I'm back down to 50 milligrams of Zoloft. And I was like, wow, okay, great. What do you think did it? She said, well, I started that B vitamin, like you said, and all of a sudden started working. I felt better, and I could go down on my medication, and now I'm back to feeling really good. I can't thank you enough. And I've heard that story 1,000 times, and you talk to people in the front lines, and they see it all the time too. One more, acetaminophen. Acetaminophen depletes N-acetylcysteine. You deplete NAC. It means that your liver enzymes are not going to function as well without cysteine, and your kidney function is not going to work as well without cysteine. And so therefore, taking acetaminophen chronically will deplete your N-acetylcysteine pool and your vitamin C pool. And so if you're going to be on acetaminophen chronically, you should absolutely take some NAC and take some vitamin C, without a doubt. Probably got to watch out and see if your iron's going to be okay too. So if you're interested in this, you can go up on the link, you can pull down. I've got all my ebooks are up there, but there's an ebook on drug-induced nutrient depletions that goes into it in depth, gives you a full chart about all the different drugs, what nutrients are depleted. And remember, we only list the ones that have clinical evidence that the depletion has actually been shown in studies.